Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's Dave Sharpe. Welcome to Wake Up Legendary. We are thrilled to have you once again for another day. Most of you are returning guests. We know the show is addicting to listen to. Why? Because it's real people. It's not some guru fluff talk. We are now on newsstands inside of Inc. magazine this month for making the Inc. 5000 list, 63rd fastest growing education company in America, privately held last year. So if you want to check out this article, who is that wonderful woman in the picture with me? Well, that's my beautiful wife. Yes, she works here inside of Legendary with us. And we have a digital link that we'll get to you and maybe drop it in the comments here, so you all can go and check that out and actually read the article. Let me try to drop it in the comments for you so you can read the article without having to go to the newsstands right now. Now, if you want a copy, you can go to the newsstands, but I just posted the link and hopefully you can click it, save it, come back to the show and check it out later, because we've got a really exciting guest. I am thrilled to talk to Tanya today and hear about how she's expanded into this. It's a unique niche to me. It's probably more familiar and something that wouldn't be as unfamiliar to people who are into beauty. As you can see, this is a mug only a mother can love. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on.
Where are you calling in from? Where are you from? And is that your original place of is that your native land that you're in right now?
Yes, it is. It's Montreal, Canada.
So wow.
Yeah,
I love to talk to Canadians. Yes. Well, I'm in Florida, Tot. And so hey, speaking of my beautiful wife, hello there. She just walked in. So we are here with you today because we love to talk to other people using the business model that we teach here, who have done it in other capacities and other ways. Why? Really, so we can just learn. That's the only, we got no ego about here at Legendary that we invented anything, that we do anything special or unique. We just realize that entrepreneurship is a lonely road, and it's better to do it with people who can help you, to guide you, to support you along the way, but still encourage you to find your own message and find your own way. So how did you get into the beauty niche?
Well, I actually, a lot of people ask me that and they think it's outer beauty. And I started with outer beauty. So when I wanted to be a therapist, psychologist, and I couldn't, we didn't have the money. It was come from very low income, not much food on the table and stuff like that. So we didn't have money to go into psychology. So I said, what's the next best thing that we can afford? Hairdressing. So as a hairdresser, I went into hair, nails, and I did all sorts of stuff. But I was like, something was not, I was like, I prefer the connection that I had with people. So I started working on myself, doing all the inner work for mental health, and then from mental health, I went into spiritual stuff. I kind of mixed everything with science, whatever. And then a few years, around 2014, I was like, I'm going to do a coaching and a Reiki. I'm going to start going into more the inner beauty. Jumped into that, and I started my own website from scratch. What you said about support is so important, because I did this alone and it was hard alone. But I'm like I'm very mental health spiritual, but I'm very much the business. So I went full blown, went in by myself, and it was tough. I struggled and whatever, but I did it, and it picked up. And I opened up a spa, which had inner and outer. So I called it Total Beauty Coach, Total Beauty Spa. And then I had.
Now, was that a physical location?
It was a physical location here in Montreal, and it was. And the one thing that I want to say that I found very important, I'm going to say it straight right away, is I failed a lot, like a lot. There are so many things that I tried and I failed. And I think that's why the success comes when you're not afraid to fail. And you just go, okay, this didn't work. Let me try something else. So I failed. There was a lot of failure throughout all this stuff, but I kept going. So it was the consistency for me. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to redirect and like switch it a bit. Then COVID happened. Oh, I can't hear you.
I muted myself.
Okay.
How long did you feel like you were failing? Just to help people normalize their what feels probably like a very lengthy no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. So I failed a few times, but instead of putting all my eggs in one basket, I always tried. I was like, I'm going to do this, 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 this. So I wrote down everything I wanted, and I never asked myself, how am I going to get paid? I'm going to say, how am I going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to write everything that I love to do, and then how do I do it? Not how do I get paid? That comes with, and sometimes it comes in sometimes, and it's lengthy. Like the things that I failed at, I did the whole self-shaming and like, shit, it's not working and whatever. But what I thought was a failure, like I took a life coach class and all that stuff. I did this in like 2014, and I didn't start doing it till like 4 years later. So for 4 years, I thought it was a fail.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as COVID hit, I had a few clients here, a few clients there, and COVID hit, and I got bombarded with that. And in all honesty, that was what I really wanted to do. So I kind of used COVID as an excuse to like get away from the outer beauty spa stuff. And then I went totally in the inner beauty. And I decided I'm going to do two things. I'm going to reduce the price for people that can't afford, because there's a lot of people that are struggling through COVID. So I'm going to reduce the price on some things, because I believe that what we charge is our value. Like it's what we put value in ourselves. There's self-value for loving ourselves, for accepting ourselves, but it's also self-value monetary. It's like energy, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to charge a big amount for the people. I'm going to put a donation so I get different incomes. And then I kind of went into social media. I was lucky enough to have support. This is where it's important, where you mentioned support. So I was like, I'm going to do everything with authenticity. And that's why I loved as soon as you guys asked me to be on, I was like, I watched your podcast. I was like, I like your guys' authentic vibe with that. And I said, and I got support. I had a partner that was like, start doing this. And my stepdaughter helped me online on TikTok. And she's like, this is what you got to do. And I failed. Just letting you know, I have another TikTok page. I don't have it anymore. And it was a flop. And the videos were cringy. And like, I did that. I tried to promote myself and it was like awkward. I was looking at it like, it didn't work. It's okay. Try again. So I made a new page. I did it again. And I got almost 500K followers in less than 2 years. And then I'm going to take it to Facebook. And then I got over 60,000 followers. And then I'm going to take it to Instagram. So everything started to like, and I was like, and it's all about consistency. And some videos fail. Some videos do very well. And then I kind of jumped into that. So I have different prices. I'd have different platforms. Then people started approaching me. I don't know if you're familiar with Gaia. Gaia's like the spiritual Netflix. So that's kind of like, they approached me and they're like, hey, can you work with us? Because you have a good vibe, whatever. So I went into that. Then I said, you know what? People were asking me like, hey, do you have any merch? Do you have any clothes? So, okay, let me add that on there. And then I started writing a book about I can't find anything online about this. I've looked for books about this. And there's, I'm basing it on certain things that Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle that wrote, but nobody ever wrote a book about it. So that's coming out in spring 2023. Oh, I can't hear.
That's because I keep muting myself somehow. Maybe I've got some background. I don't know. Or is somebody on my team muting me? Anyways, so you have basically kind of failed your way forward into many different things, and that's wonderful. And I'm glad that you touched on that, because what I heard was that the plan came together as you came along.
Exactly. I love how you said that. You failed your way forward. That's kind of what
if you're falling forward versus falling back or falling down and not getting up, at least you're making some progress. I mean, physically, if you visualize that falling forward, you're falling and you're making progress. And the slow crawl is the way that all great entrepreneurs achieve success. All great companies achieve success. It was never a race. They didn't, blow up overnight. There's not a single story that's like that lasted. It's a slow crawl, failing forward. But I love, and where our clients have the biggest challenges is really getting started in finding that kind of confidence to be able to, you know,
Yeah.
just take the actions, it not be a dream, it not be something that they think is cool, or even that they watch other people do, right?
Right.
Because like we all do that, and that any human being can do that. We all have to understand that any human being can like come to a show and watch what's going on, but that leap from going from watching to getting in the game, to raising your hand saying, okay, I want to be eligible, pick me, or I'm going to insert myself into the game, is a difficult step. So take us back to you dealing with your own inner self and inner work, and what were some of the things that came up in your business specifically that you had to push through and you knew were mental and emotional?
Well, you ask a great question because my background is I was born with a terminal blood disorder that attacks the kidneys. And ever since I was little, I was very sick. So I had just chronic illness growing up. I couldn't move. I would be every week. I was sick maybe 4 or 5 times a week. I would have
Mm.
sometimes, if I had 3 days in a row of feeling good, that was to me, I would start doing stuff.
Wow.
I was in a very different, my family dynamic. There was trauma. There was things like this that happened, and stuff like that I went through, and I share it always on my lives. I share it on my videos. I'm very open and vulnerable about that. So I had these, and I don't talk about it too much because I say like a trigger warning, but I did try to I guess unalive or take my life twice when I was a teenager. So that I was really not just physically, but it was like, well, you might not live long, you might not have any babies, you might not, and it just went downhill. So that was I was at rock bottom. So in that instance, I still had the business person, even though I was going through stuff. But at this point, it's survival. Like I was just trying to survive. And then I had a baby, and then I was a single mom for quite some time. It was like so much, so much. And when I started to do the inner work, that's what pushed me to take that leap, like you said,
Mm.
because when the outside world is too much or you're feeling pain, you don't feel like it. You don't feel like being happy. Everybody's like, well, be positive or be happy. And I talk about that all the time. I don't believe it's about always feeling positive. When you
Mhm.
look at a battery, there's not like one side is bad and one side is good. You need both to connect the energy. So
I
to
like that.
me, it's not about not feeling sad or angry. It's about how to feel it.
Yeah.
And when I mastered all of the inside world, and that's why I always say, as within, so without, I started mastering. You never really master. So forget what I just said, because we never really master this. But as I started it, that was what got me over that leap. And I realized, talking to a lot of people, that people are always asking about, I can do this. Like I tell people, write down, because I have coaches that I'm coaching too, like, and do all this stuff. And how do I get to that? I said, write down what you like, and you can't think how, oh, I won't monetize off that. That's what people keep thinking. That's why they don't take the leap.
Yeah.
Oh, there's too
Wow.
many, it's oversaturated, or I
Yeah.
can't monetize. And I'm like, forget the monetize. Think how you can do it. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it comes. And the people I've worked, it comes. It comes.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
that's a difficult concept to work with, which is do all the work and then you'll get the results, basically, is basically the kind of idea. And it's the same thing with doing personal development work. I mean, my personal development journey started in treatment centers when I had various issues with the law the minute I turned 18 because of drug addictions and just being out, um, just a little bit of an unhinged teenage years, you know what I mean, in
Yeah.
childhood, without going into too much detail. But that led then to a journey of, kind of a very bumpy personal development that eventually led me into a more steady flow of kind of recovery work and therapy. And, I've now personally been going to therapy for over 5 years myself, both personally and with my wife. There's been times that I've done that every week. And there's been times that I'm on a bi-weekly schedule. Right now we're on a bi-weekly schedule. And it's amazing that as you're going through and addressing, and sometimes people say, oh, I don't even know where to start with some of this stuff, right? And it's kind of like, well, the beautiful thing about personal development is you can always start with just what's in front of you right now.
Exactly.
Or just what's in front of you right now. And that will lead you to the source of where that came from. So for example, if you're feeling like you don't like you're just absolutely terrified of somebody else's opinion, well, that came from somewhere. You know what I mean? That came from somewhere. That came from a critical parent, or that came from, some sort of a traumatic experience that maybe you pushed down and forgot. And you just said after it, I'm never doing that again, subconsciously.
Exactly.
So the beautiful thing is that if you, have been looking around or trying to get started for some time, and you can't, or you haven't, then that might be an opportunity to work on that issue, instead of just trying to say, well, I'm failing with my business, or this is a scam, or this doesn't work, or this won't work for me. It's like, no, you've got a
core issue.
You've got a core issue. You've got an alternator or a radiator under the hood that just needs some to be addressed, and it's wonderful, because once you see the pattern, usually it's a pattern, and you can begin to kind of find the source. It's like, oh my gosh, that, and of course I recommend you do this with somebody who's actually qualified to help you in this respect, the things that I'm talking about, meaning somebody who's got a license, right? This is work that I'm talking about.
I'm gonna comment on that.
This is my opinion. This is my opinion, because a lot of times
but I would like, I don't want to interrupt you. I'll let you finish, but I would like to comment on something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The benefit that I've got from doing that kind of work has benefited my business in ways that no course, no video, no just quick fix on the internet has ever done. Because what I often find is I'm usually going to the internet just trying to numb or escape
the outer world, right?
Yeah, try to take advantage of the outer world. But anyways, what comes up for you as I say some of the things I just said? And please push back, opinions, feedback, and experience.
I believe in whatever works for us, right? So I have, I'm certified a coach, but I'm not certified therapist. I'm not certified psychologist. And what I do is mental health work. I do something, my book is self-projection. Whatever we see on the outside world is a reflection of what we're feeling on the inside world. So there's a lot of people. So I'm just letting you know that 92% of my clients are psychologists.
Yeah, I got
or psychiatrists. Actually, 92% of who I see are, sorry, let me rephrase that. Doctors. Okay, so they have a doctorate. So either like emergency doctor or psychologist. So let me rephrase that. I did my analysis. So the reason I say this is because there's a lot of people that do have certifications and they do have all that. And the reason I said this, because I've seen at least 6 in my life when I was younger. And one changed my life. Absolutely amazing. Rose, like life-changing, made me look, she says, I want you to not need me anymore and all that stuff. But there were some people that I see were so tormented and living their own, because we're all humans on earth. There's nobody that is above or below. And it's an illusion that we think some people that either have more knowledge are better than us, or more money are better than us, or more this. Everybody has their experience and their life and their things. So it is a normal feeling to feel like, okay, somebody needs to be the highest qualification to do that. And if that's right for you, that's okay.
Yeah.
But on another aspect, I've been, like I said, I'm not going to tell, if you want to know my whole story, you can like follow me on my, TikTok and everything I talk about of what I went through and the physical, there are all kinds of abuse that I've been through in my life. And I was so depressed, and and I do so much inner work, and my brain works constantly overtime to go internally. As you mentioned, you said the outer world is fine. It's great to look and get help from the outer world, but you said there's no, like, it's crazy of what happened on your inside world. That's what made you more successful. That's what made the inside world. So the same thing applies to anybody who does the work inside. And the
Yeah.
people that come to see me and the doctors that come to see me and said, you've done the work and your life did this. My life went, I didn't want to live. And I've managed to heal. My doctors are like, I had a kidney transplant. I've had 6 surgeries and I'm all scarred up and everything. And my doctors are like, how are you still alive? How are you 16 years transplanted? Because a transplant is supposed to last about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
You get transplant every 4 years, or dialysis. Mine has been lasting 16 years because I did all that. And then the success that came
What
with
is all that? Can you give us some practical examples? Because yeah, you're right. That people can get different things from different places, different
experience.
people. And I've been in 12-step learning from guys that are homeless and just pulled themselves off of the street, breakthrough takeaways and stuff like that. So you're absolutely right. There's no one size fits all. So what are some of the practical things that you've done? Because you've alluded to the inner work and this big load of work, and I believe you. Can you give us some practical examples? Because what our entrepreneurs are trying to do is they're trying to not particularly, come into entrepreneurship and have to go full throttle on digging through their childhood and, right? I mean, that's a lot. That's heavy. But what are some practical examples of some things that you've done when you got started or still now that you consider your inner work, that you consider strategies or tactics that you've done that helped you, and what did they specifically help you with? Were you struggling with getting on camera? Were you struggling with setting boundaries? Like what were your personal struggles?
So everything.
In the business specifically, you know what I mean?
Everything. So boundaries for business. And I tell everybody this, boundaries is one of the hardest things for all of us as humans, because we were not allowed, like 20, 30, 40 years ago, none of us were allowed to have boundaries. It was like, the TV tells us, the government and we have to do that. We weren't allowed. It didn't matter what gender you are, what national, you were not allowed to have boundaries. So we're all like these newborn babies with boundaries of like trying to set them with our partner in work. I think boundaries are important in work. What would you allow? I call them agreements. I prefer calling them agreements. So I set some agreements with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I have to work out every day. I meditate every day. Just like I brush my teeth and I take a shower, I do things for myself every day. So the spiritual, it's mind, body, soul. So the mind, what do I do for my mind? I'll tell you just in a second. What I do for my body is I drink a lot of water. I eat a balanced meal. I get my body active, whether it's working out or dancing or doing whatever I can. And I meditate. That's my spiritual side. I get connected with something, my consciousness, the thing that's making me alive right now, that's floating around inside all of us. I try to connect to that part and say, okay, I want to go that deep. So the mental side that I do, I started off with, I noticed that I hated myself. So forget going on camera. People would try to take pictures of me. And I was like, no, I'm ugly. Like I'm ugly. I'm this. I was so mean to myself.
Yeah.
And I remember I would just drop it. Oh, I'm so stupid. Sorry for swearing, but I
No,
would
you're fine.
really.
You can say exactly what you want.
Okay, because I'm a little bit potty mouthed sometimes. Anyway, so I'm like, oh shit, I dropped. I'm such an idiot. I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
Anything I did, it was constant criticize.
Right.
And I realized I know a lot of people don't believe in this, but I started doing these affirmations like every day. And people are saying, oh, they don't work. You're
what's an affirmation? Let's just educate. What do people think an affirmation is, and what is an affirmation?
Okay, so affirmations obviously affirming something, right? So when you were a kid, what did your parents either tell you or whoever raised you? What did you believe? when you were a kid. So when you were a kid, like you're walking around and maybe when you were getting yelled at and you were crying, you were like, go to your room. Go to your room. I don't want to deal with this right now. So you were taught that I'm not lovable when I'm angry or I cry. So I'm now abandoned when I'm angry and cry. So you think I'm not lovable when I have uncomfortable emotions. So as an adult, we try to be positive all the time. And then you start suppressing the negative. And when you start shitty, you feel like a crappy, shitty person when you do get angry. So now it's not regular healthy anger or healthy sadness. It's like explosive or implosive anger and sadness. So what I do, affirmations, is reminding your mind of what your soul already knows. Because your soul that's floating around inside knows you're good. Like when you were a kid, you just, butterfly, a plane, like
So
you didn't
innocent.
judge yourself.
Right.
So you're just reminding, you're going back to that and you have to do it. So have you ever noticed like habits? And this is actually how I apply with my business. So this is related to business. What is my habits versus what is conscious? Like, what am I consciously doing? Because our conscious brain processes 40 to 50 bits of information a second consciously. Our subconscious, 11 million a second, 11 million bits. So this is what we're unaware of, the subconscious, and your conscious mind, what you're aware of. So we're not aware of much every day. We're walking around and aware. So when you're doing affirmations, like let's say, for example, if you have a hard time loving yourself, I love myself. It's really annoying at first. It's super annoying. I love myself. And you're like, it's annoying. But then you get into it and you start, I do matter. My feelings matter. And then all of a sudden, it's like what I joke about is that if your consciousness or your soul or your spirit is stuck in your pinky toenail, when you do affirmations, you'll notice that it comes up to your heart and there's a moment that it connects and you're like, I am successful. I am good. It just like hits. There's this moment, and it's the same as like if you never brush your teeth ever, you're gonna have these rotten. It's gross, right? Never brush your teeth. You eat candy. You have stuff. You go to the dentist. It's gonna hurt when they start to clean out your teeth. You're gonna be like, I gotta go do the work. I gotta, you gotta continue. So let's say somebody comes to an event, legendary event, and they do, everybody, it's like they get, and then they go home and they're like, it didn't work. Because what you did is you went to the dentist, you cleaned your teeth, and then you went back home and you still stopped brushing your teeth. You didn't do the work. You didn't do the inner work. So it's basically consistency and making it a habit. So when I brush my teeth, I don't even know I'm brushing my teeth. When I shower, it's so automatic. Like when I walk, it's automatic. I don't go left, right, right. It's automatic when I walk. Yeah. When I'm breathing, it's automatic. But if you bring your awareness and okay, so now I'm aware that I'm breathing, I'm aware that I'm walking, and you become aware of these things and you make things unconscious. So for me now, going online, doing the work, posting video, it's unconscious now. It's automatic. Like, okay, I'm going to do it. It's not hard anymore. It used to be hard. And now it's like you doing the podcast. You come on the podcast, you're like,
just roll out of bed.
Roll out of bed and you're like, all right.
I really do. No, I do.
Who's on?
I actually do. I do. And I just grab a shirt off the floor somewhere and just, come over to the house, the other house, the house that I podcast out of, and just pull up. Actually, this morning I took a shower, Tanya. I swear to God that I took a shower this morning and the walls didn't fall down. It was unbelievable.
But see how natural it is for you? It's so natural because talking to people, going online, you've now made it a habit. And this is why anything that you do consistently will become a habit. Yes. So I started making inner work a habit.
Avoiding is a habit. I want to just interject right there because avoiding is a habit. Procrastinating is a habit. Negative self-talk is a habit.
100%.
Right? All of these things are habitual. And what I love about entrepreneurship in doing this work is that it will bring out all of your patterns and your habits. It really will. It will bring out the pattern of avoiding the hard work, which can be, putting yourself out there, or there's always like something that we're not willing to face. So we just jump from thing to thing to thing. Or something that we're not willing to face. So we just jump from relationship to relationship to relationship. My wife said to me, sitting on a couch, you know, about in the middle of our relationship, we've been together for about 14 years now. And she said about halfway through, I was thinking that the answer to all my problems was just to get rid of her and, go travel the world and do whatever I thought I deserved or needed or whatever. And she's like, well, you'll probably just actually be sitting on this same couch with another girl in a year dealing with the same shit.
She's very aware. Yeah.
Very aware. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I was like, yes, I probably will be, because I've got patterns. And so just going back to your affirmation thing, it's like these we can't think ourselves into a new way of acting. That's something that I learned in recovery. We have to act ourselves into a new way of thinking. So it's like the affirmations alone won't do it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't sit here and go, there's no weeds in my yard. There's no weeds in my yard. There's no weeds in my yard. I have to, as I'm doing the hard thing, this is how I use affirmations. And I'm not saying this is the only way, but as I'm doing the hard, it's the same way that my 6-year-old, and my wife taught my 6-year-old this. This is an affirmation. I can do hard things. I can do hard things. I can do hard things. Right. And that's an affirmation that our 6-year-old uses, that I often use a lot too, because sometimes I feel like I can't do hard things myself.
Or I can get uncomfortable. I like mine too.
I
can get uncomfortable.
I can get uncomfortable. I'm okay being uncomfortable. I can get uncomfortable. I love that. So this is what we're talking about. And I think some of the beginnings of what you're talking about with this kind of doing this inner work, it's not just this is all not just I do A and B happens, like I buy a ClickFunnels account and now I'm a marketer, or I enroll in Legendary Marketers 15-day challenge and now all of a sudden
I make affirmations.
You know what I mean? Like, this is a process to where the affirmations really don't even start meaning anything until you get in and start trying to do something. You know what I mean? Because we're also good.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I said, speaking of your son bringing up, because I think kids are like, they bring out these things and you're like, what? My daughter was telling me, so my daughter is a little bit also that pushed me to be very successful. She's a go-getter. Like, she's done already stuff and she's only 17 and she's like, shoo. Anyways, she told me, she's like, you know what, Mom, I had this dream and I was thinking about it. If I'm sitting in the house and the house is burning down, and I'm doing these affirmations and the house is burning and somebody goes, you know what? Get out of the house. It's okay. Get out of the house. And then I'm like, no. I'm just going to affirm myself. I'm going to do these affirmations. It's going to be fine. The house is going to be fine. And in the end, like, you have to actually do the action. You have to get uncomfortable and like walk out of your house and save yourself, or, do something to help the fire. So she was giving this example. I'm like, that's great. Because you can't just, but it's the first step. To me, the first step, as soon as you start reprogramming your mind, and this is the work that I do, is to rewire your mind to think a different way. Because I used to think automatically, being pessimist, hating myself, everything. And now I notice I still do it. I have so much trauma and PTSD of shit that happened that I'm like, sometimes I sit there and I'm like, yeah, you know what? You suck. And people are doing better than you. And then all of a sudden, because I did so much work, my brain, I don't have to try anymore. My brain goes back, hey, Tanya, calm down. You're doing great. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Or you have a support group in place, whether it even be your audience, right? Who I think we undervalue the where we can get support from. So many of us can get support from our own audience and community that we begin to build online. But I love that. I love that, because yes, we all are subject to still fall into those old ways of thinking, those old neural pathways, whatever, that were grinded into our brain from early life, et cetera, et cetera. And the difference is between somebody who's successful, like just oversimplifying, and somebody who's not, is not that the successful person doesn't have the drama, trauma, old habits and old things still in there. I mean, we don't rid, like a scar. It doesn't go like, oh,
That's
this,
so
like, I was just, that doesn't go away. It just kind of heals up. And I feel like a lot of the, and also there a lot of the things that make me weak and make me a vulnerable human, like they're almost curses. They're also gifts.
right.
If I learn how to, like my ADD, like that was something that, it's a big problem in other places, but I can also get hyper focused. So I love the fact that you're talking about still having things and then recognizing it, because it's so empowering if you're sitting there messing with something or getting ready to go live or whatever, to catch yourself putting yourself down, criticizing yourself, and in that sort of old or disempowering mode, and to catch yourself and maybe move a muscle, change a thought. That's something. Or Tony Robbins might say, emotion follows motion. So get up and do something. But to catch yourself, right? And I'm sure you have strategies. What do you do?
I do something though. There's always a missing point that I'm now. I don't know. It's the feminine energy in me. I always do something a little different before the Tony Robbins. There's a little moment before. So I know, the breathing. I love his breathing. I love that stuff.
We're
Whatever.
jumping. We're excited. We're doing a lot of things right now.
Right.
But what are we
what
missing?
happens? If we don't do something right before,
Okay.
what you're doing is taking your feelings from your conscious mind and suppressing them down to your subconscious and going, I'm going to suppress. And then what happens is your conscious mind is going, because we function on 5% conscious mind, 95% subconscious. And subconscious is unawareness. So we're like, hey, let me suppress that down. And it's going to pop up later in my relationship when I'm really happy, everything's good. And I'm going to, shut up. What? And then and you're like, why is this happening? There is a moment right before where I find it's very big in 2022, and it's self-validation. And I think that's where you find your value, and that's where you find success. Because if you can validate yourself, you're valuable, you're worthy without anything. And when you find the worthiness, then the world starts seeing you as worthy and valuable. And valuable is energy, is money, it's success, it's all that. So it kind of comes to you. So how I do that is when you first, like, I'll give you an example of two friends. So you just got into a car accident or something happened. Your car is like, oh shit. And you just had a really bad day. And it just, life, duality, night and day, duality happened. And you're like, man, everything was so good. And then you have two friends and you tell your story to this, this is shitty. And then the one friend goes, you know what? Come on, breathe. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're good. Let's do this. You'll be like, yeah. But what about the other friends that sits there and goes, wow, that sucks. What are you feeling? It's shitty, huh? Right? Yeah. And then depending on your comfortability, you want to hug? Do you want to? So that small moment of validating your feelings, which most of us didn't have from our parents.
You're talking about validating the fact before you go exciting and just trying to get pumped up,
before
saying this really does suck for you. This really does suck for me right now, Dave. And
you're allowed to be angry.
And I could use some support. Like, I'm speaking as a man, because the majority of times we just say, I should be able to do this. I got this. And then we shame the shit out of ourselves because if it's not going well, right, fellas? Because we feel like we're not good providers. So what you're saying is, before I go trying to pump myself up and be the man and go out there and hunt and make it kill, right, to actually stop and say, this is a lot of pressure, man. This is a lot. I'm feeling a lot of pressure right now. I'm feeling like I'm not good enough. I'm feeling like I'm a fraud. I'm feeling like I'm an imposter. Like I shouldn't even be doing this.
But then you stop though. That there's a moment. So I say, allow yourself. You make your own time. I give myself from 5 minutes to 1 day. I do that. I don't do more than 2 days, because if I do more than 5 minutes or 1 day, that I'm a fraud. We'll go into 2 weeks.
Of
And now I
self-pity,
just crave
of pity
self-pity.
pottying. Yes,
Right.
right?
So that's where the balance is.
Victim stancing, to where I can get maybe too far into from kind of validating my feelings and my experience to kind of getting into maybe even depression or poor me. Yeah.
So that's where I do.
Fellas, ladies, is this making sense to you all? Because this is really this is the other piece. I mean, this is the dynamics that I always talk about. There's the mechanics and the dynamics. And Tanya is giving us her journey and her experience and her way of doing things. And it's unique, but it's similar to my journey. It's similar to what I've experienced, having to get to this place of, entrepreneurship, and marriage for me has put everything in my lap. It's put all my limiting beliefs. It's put all my self-doubt and insecurity. It's put all of the drama and trauma that I've had in my life. It's put it right in my lap, both my marriage and my business. And in the universe, God has said, this is still with you. And we need to sort through this. And the more that I've run away from it, and the more that I've tried to blame, or the more that I tried to numb, right? Because I've done it all. Run, blame, numb. That was my solution. Run, blame, numb. Run, blame, numb, right? And I could only run and blame and numb so much until I started to really look inside and say, Dave, golly, you're the common denominator in all of these things inside of your life. It's you. You're the common thread in each of the situations. And okay, that sucks, man. Wow. Okay, I am part of the problem. That was a big revelation to me when I first got started, was that I was actually the number one reason why I was where I was at. Actually owning that as an adult, right? And
There's
saying,
a fine line between blaming and taking responsibility.
absolutely.
You take responsibility.
Yes.
Some people blame themselves, and then it becomes a victim.
In the way that recovery put it to me when I got clean was, you aren't responsible for anything up until this point because you didn't know, and maybe you were a child or whatever. But from this point forward, you have a healthy adult self in there. We can bring it out. We can develop it. But from this point forward, you're also responsible. And that empowered me personally, because I always felt so out of control. Like my life was not within my grasp. And I realized personally that I had a lot more influence in my own life than I thought I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was huh?
An inner power that you had more that you didn't know was there.
Well, yeah. And just that I actually, through humbling myself, going to places and getting help. For me, it was 12-step in recovery that I first went to start getting help for a debilitating, crippling heroin addiction, right? And I think that kind of broke through to me, because there were loving, caring people there that weren't over me like a teacher, a critical teacher in school saying, go to detention, you got a bad grade and you're a bad boy. I thought
They
I
were
was
validating you.
Yeah, they were validating me and saying, I have had that same experience. And I was like, okay, I'm not just a throwaway piece of shit junkie.
Yeah.
There's other people who have had the same experience that I have, and I can learn from them. And that was the breakthrough. And I think for those of us who haven't had that experience, to where, even there's a lot of different functions, like what I experienced in religion. And this is not a shot at your church or your religion, but what I experienced in my church growing up was that there wasn't a lot of things that were being talked about in terms of things that were really going on with me. And so whether it be my parents or the other authoritative adults in my life, I didn't feel safe going to them with what was going on. So when I became an entrepreneur and when I started to realize that I didn't want to work construction for the rest of my life, I really had to begin to reparent myself. And I had to begin to really say, hey, I can make healthy adult decisions. And I can do this, not by myself,
Yeah.
but I need to find some safe, good, solid people. And that's why I asked about, the boundaries or agreements thing, if you had struggled with that, because oftentimes we come into this business world and we immediately start getting attracted to some of the same people, places, and things that maybe we were previously attracted to. And so we also have to find, our healthy people, places, and things here on the internet. And, when we do that, just like I got clean in recovery because of that environment, when we find that here on the internet and we're starting a business or whatever, I find that we can really make a lot of progress, even without going and doing intensive therapy. Or you might find you want to do that later on. But I think the things that you're doing for your audience are at a very basic level and very foundational level, so helpful, because we didn't learn any of this. This has been like this has been a legitimate therapeutic session for me and others, because I know by the comments, we don't, I don't know that they're talking about this in college. They damn sure weren't talking about it in my middle and high school. So when I turned 18 and became an adult, whether I was going to go into a job or try to start my own business, I was completely mentally and emotionally unprepared.
Blocked. Yeah. You know what I like to say? I like to say the universe gives us what, or God, or whatever you choose to call it, what we give us. So if you're giving yourself some love and you're starting to give yourself value, the universe responds and says, oh, you're giving yourself, that's what we're doing now. And then I get some people said, yeah, but I do so much for everybody else. And I'm always doing, I go, yeah. So the universe responds and says, oh, you're giving to other people, I'll give to other people. So it's not selfish, it's self-loving. So when you start doing that inner work and you start going, and I do have a suggestion for anybody that wants to start small and they don't know, like, oh, the affirmations, diving in. And this is something that I've been doing for many years, and my brain now automatically does it. And this is something, when you said the reparenting, it brought up, is when you're walking outside, because we have a tendency to think about yesterday, all of the failures and the crap that happened, when we were 5 years old, or just last week, that stupid thing, that person that pissed you off, your boss, whatever. And then you think about the future, especially, I know in the States, what's going on. Oh my God, what's happening? Depending on your views, you're like, the world. So there's so much stress of the future and pain of the past. And the only thing that's real right now, as we speak, is I'm looking outside, I see a tree, I'm talking to you right now. So I said, what I do for everybody, the first step to doing that is using your senses to their full potential. Like not just like, we have the basic senses. You're like, okay, so let me listen to something. So if you're stressed and you're, let's say you're in the business and you're trying to, success and thinking about, then you go online and you start comparing yourself to other people who are successful. The first thing you do is you stop and you use your senses. So when you start to listen to, when I say full potential, I don't mean like, oh, okay, I hear a car. No, go deeper. There's a lawnmower, or there's and when you start to listen, your brain shuts off. You're not thinking about yesterday. You're not thinking about tomorrow. Your brain calms down. And that's another version of self-validating, because you're saying, no, I'm safe right now. I'm good. Yeah. So if you use, and then when you're eating, you eat, what am I tasting? The flavors. So if ever you don't want to jump in, you just want to start little bit by little bit and reprogramming your mind to more success, health, wealth, everything that you want. It's coming back to the present moment. I believe that for me, this has worked like amazing.
Yeah. Well, gosh,
like a kid.
Imagine that working in so many situations. I mean, sometimes I can get legitimately triggered and have a hard time self-regulating myself. And I know that some of you think that triggered only, liberals get triggered, or only, snowflakes get triggered. But I guarantee you get triggered, and you can call it whatever you want.
I guess some people call it just an emotional reaction. whether it's
Absolutely.
angry, sad.
Yes. Let's call it that. Let's call it that. It have a hard time kind of get angry, get frustrated, and then kind of blow up or go off or not be able to get refocused. We can call it whatever we want, right? Because words can be also triggering. um, so gosh, man, I still have a hard time sometimes regulating my emotions. If something happens and I'm waiting for a response or some sort of interaction with somebody, or someone has popped up from my past that was triggering. There's so many different things. I got into an argument with my wife, and I feel, you know, I feel just shameful, or like I'm not
Yep.
enough, or I'm not good enough, or whatever it is. You're right. The thoughts are what creates the snowball. So, whether, and I think for me, it's kind of like one thing that I always do is try to go, what am I feeling right now, and get into my feelings so I'm not so much in my thoughts, right? But I love what you just said, because you're taking it a step further to really say, what am I smelling right now? What am I tasting right now? And just, if I'm freaking out about something on the internet, or I'm about to go live or whatever, okay, what am I feeling? Oh, my hands are sweating. I'm
Yeah.
sweat. Ooh, a couple of
That's
bubbles
that.
there. Let me let that out real quick. And just, what am I feeling? It brings you back, you're right, into the present moment, into your body, and not somewhere up in this, because I feel like sometimes my brain is like a massive fishbowl, and it's just, freaking things are darting all over eagles and dolphins and shit, and it's just, and Homer Simpson's up there with his, tambourines and shit.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, it's
The curse
hard.
of the overthinkers. But it's also good, because overthinker, you can be success. You can overthink success, but you can overthink triggers.
Well, it's about the snowballing effect, right? It's about where my thoughts take me. And I think that's your point, is get into your body, get into your senses, get into the moment. Don't chase that freaking thought rabbit down the hole,
Right.
down the black hole of where that goes. Anxiety attacks, panic attacks, depression. But for some of us, that is the norm, right? And that's where we feel comfortable. And it's like, once we start to have a bit of consistency in our life, and we have a week or two to where we're in kind of a good flow of things, right? You know what I'm talking about. I've been doing good for a couple of weeks. I've been going to the gym. I've been eating well. Why, Tanya, do we
Go. Okay.
why?
So I actually talked about this in my live last night. So I'm going to bring this back up. So life is duality. Okay. So I said this on my live. I used to, when everything was really good, I would get scared, because life has a tendency to throw you into something, because we have to get uncomfortable. Just like I don't see negative feelings as bad. I know some people think negative is bad. I see negative as healing. Just like when we're sleeping, like at night, the darkness makes us release these hormones that heal our body while we're sleeping, and the sun gives us this beautiful bright sun. But if you walk into the darkness, you're blinded. If you walk into the sun, you're blinded. Like, no matter what you're too much of, you get blinded. But if you stand right in the middle and you see the darkness on one side, the side, and you kind of go, all right, you see your shadow, you see everything around you, and everything's clear. If you're in a dark room, you light a match, it's clear. If you're in the sun and you put your hands over your eyes, it's clear. So it's the yin yang kind of vibe, like, and now the darkness. So if you find the balance, and what you can do is, when everything is going really well, that life is duality. We all know it. There is nobody that's just like perfect all the time. None of us do that. Not even Tony Robbins. Like, every human being has the ego. That's what keeps us alive. The ego is what keeps us, like, if we were all like, oh, everything is so great, bam, get hit by a car. Oh shit, I didn't realize. So we got to find that balance. And what I do is, what I used to get is, life would throw me into the darkness, and I'm like, and then you get a ticket, you get a car accident, or somebody gets mad at you, and you're like, everything was so good. So what I do is I actually do it on purpose to get myself uncomfortable. I walk into the darkness instead of letting life throw me into the darkness. So I make sure that I talk about vibrations. Like some people are like high vibe only. I'm like, think about sounds. Yeah, I'm not into
Vibe
that.
only. Yeah.
I'm not into that because like, listen,
Is that toxic? Is that what people like? I don't know
it's
all the.
escapism. It's
Okay.
escapism. Is because
Yeah.
nobody wants to feel shitty emotions.
Yeah.
You know, you've been there. You had the addiction. You don't want to feel that anymore. So sometimes you're like, well, I just want to be positive and high vibe because I don't want to feel that. So it's escapism going on. And it's the same as darkness. If you live in depression, you're escaping the light. If you live in only high vibes, you're escaping the darkness. And I did that. Trust me, there was a few years there I was like, oh, positive vibes. Like when I first in
Positive vibes only.
2009, I read The Secret. Which is a great book, like if you apply some things, but I was like, only high vibration. And then I found myself so miserable because I was explosively angry, not all the time, but it was like suppressing. So I realized that I now
really cool. Really
get awkward. That's it. Just like if you're doing something really good, everything is really good, get uncomfortable a little bit. Sit with yourself. I talk about the vibrations, like the earth vibrates at 7.8 hertz, which is really low. It's a low vibration. So go outside with your feet, walk outside, ground yourself a bit, ground yourself, use the energy. And when you're too high, you know that time, like when you go to an event, you crash a little bit. Instead of crashing, don't let life crash you. You kind of go into it a bit, go into the darkness, feel sad, think about something that grounds you, feel some sad emotion. So when you find that, you have inner peace, even on the hard days.
This is really brilliant. Let me tell you how I've been able to do that over the years and really didn't even know that I was doing it. One of the things that I've always done is stayed close to my personal development work, specifically around my recovery stuff, addiction oriented stuff, drugs, alcohol, etc. And by doing that, that's kept me around people who are not high vibe only. You know what I mean? Like these people are low vibe only. And not really, you know what I mean? But mostly because in some respect. So also the nature stuff, like going out into nature, like sitting down and really, you know, like what I do now is live a pretty regular life. Like my kids don't know that I'm, you know, the kids don't really know much except that we have a business called Legendary Marketer, and you know, I mean, we have T-shirts and stuff like that, and Daddy talks to people, you know what I mean. But it's not like, oh, Daddy's high, but we're building $1 billion thing here. When I go home, it's just all about them, and we just walk in the door and start playing, and that grounds me. Because I'm now on the floor, I'm playing with trucks, I'm changing dirty diapers. And I think for, you know what I mean, a lot of us who have these opportunities to stay grounded and we don't, and we want to get rid of them. You know what I mean? Like we want to get them out of our lives because we think that getting to some place we're now going to have just all easy, high vibes, happy all the time.
Right.
And it's like, I think the point that you're making here is deep and it's really brilliant because it's so important to try to be aware of this as you're building, that as things are getting, and many of you probably are on that high vibe train right now. You're getting started, you're flipping a new page, turning a new chapter, you're starting a new business, etc. Right? I mean, you're on that high vibe train. And then guess what? It's likely this is not the first thing you've ever done before, right? And there's probably a pattern there. And, you know, I think we get so disappointed when we start getting bored, or we get disappointed when we feel frustrated. We say, it's not supposed to be like this. And what you're saying is that is life, and embrace it and talk about it and go there before it surprises you. right? Embrace boring, embrace struggle, even as you're excited, because you'll essentially, it won't be a surprise to you anymore.
It's the balance. Instead of going like this, you're just
from one side of the spectrum,
and
one side of the extreme.
But it's not the lows won't be so low.
Yeah.
You know, so they'll just be.
So somebody made an interesting comment. I have a friend that can bring me down whenever I'm up. Now, this person that commented may mean that there's a leveling, like, so I don't want to project whatever I'm interpreting that as, but would you talk a little bit about dealing with people, dealing with people who you perceive as toxic or make you feel small or criticized, or, you know, not the best version of yourself? If now you're trying to do new things and start new things, how do we deal with these people who, for some of us, we may not be able to get it? We need to figure out how to coexist with them. What do you recommend? What comes up for you around this topic?
That's what my book is about, actually.
Okay.
So it's funny. My book is self-projection. It's like owning your shit. Okay. And what happens is, as I mentioned a couple of times on this, that we live 5% conscious mind, 95%. So conscious mind is awareness, subconscious, unaware. But we function on 95 of unawareness. So when some people walk in, so there's a balance. Some people, and I do about owning your self projections. What I see in others is a reflection of what I see in myself. But if I see a wall, I'm not a wall. There's difference between fact and self-projection. Like if I see a dog or a zebra, it doesn't make me a zebra. So there's levels of what self-projection is the emotion. So some people I get that question every day, and people say, well, I walked in, there's a bunch of negative people. I don't want to be around them. They're bringing me down. What I say is that you are now saying that their energy is stronger than yours. So your energy is so weak that you're letting other people's negative, or there is something in you that sees the negative in them. There is something in your subconscious, the 95%, that you have to say, wait, what is negative in me today? Like, if I see a bunch of negative people, what in me is negative today? And then you're empowering. And I always talk about the love vibration, like love. So you say, okay, I'm going to give some love to whatever is connecting the negative. But the balance is, there is a difference between people that you always see negative people and you're now introverted because you don't want to be around people. You don't want to be successful. You don't want to put yourself out there. Too many negative. That's self-projection. So you ask yourself, what is negative in me? And then all of a sudden you're now empowering your energy. So when you walk into a room, doesn't matter if there's negative people, your energy of love is so strong, you now own the room. But the difference, there are some people that it's not that they're negative. They will purposely try to sabotage you. And you have all this good news and they're trying to bring you down. So there is the balance of that. But when you do the inner work of owning your self-projections, you can now tell who's the person that's really poison or toxic that's trying to poison me versus a person that is having a negative moment. Yeah. Maybe they're having a bad day or a bad moment. They're not all negative and toxic. So that's where the balance is fine. So as soon as you start doing the inner work, like we talked about this whole time, and you start saying, okay, what do I see in others is a reflection of what I'm feeling about myself. It's not that you're negative to others. Maybe you're negative to yourself.
Yeah. And I want to validate everybody, because you hear both Tanya and myself keep talking about doing the inner work, and most of you are already begun doing it. So don't feel like there's something wrong with you. Don't feel like there's a point at which you become good enough to start doing inner work. Anytime that you're just conscious of self, you're doing inner work and you're giving yourself that self-love that you deserve and that's required for you to kind of, you know, not shrivel up into a basically someone who's kind of paralyzed or overly depressed or just thinks that they're a total piece of shit, and, you know, kind of lives, which many of us, I don't think it's bad to, as you say, fluctuate in and out of these things. So I can have a feeling. It's just, and it's, oh, I actually feel like a piece of shit right now. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to move on. Right. But it's, what your point is validate the feeling, because so many of us growing up, we were told, shh, be seen, not heard, or when we started to cry, our needs weren't met, right? And that you touched on that earlier. So it's like so many of us are coming into this entrepreneur world and just we're living our world in general, feeling unseen, feeling unheard, feeling misunderstood. And so when we go to try to do something new like this, it's not really that the world's saying that, but we're saying that to ourselves and we feel that way. This is your whole point about the self-projection. And so the more that you become aware of that and you begin to just, anytime you do something physically hard, you are doing inner work because you are pushing yourself. As long as you're not quitting, you have to be doing something inside in order to keep going. So yes, there's levels. Yes, there's more people, mentors, people that we can follow to learn more. Tanya, you're a great one. And if you're here and you're seeing and you're going down the road already, and you're here working on your business, then you're beginning the wonderful, beautiful process of transformation. And you the most important thing is that we just don't expect change without changing ourselves. And that's one of my favorite little meme images is where I don't know if it's a person, it's a man up at a pulpit and he's talking to a crowd and he says, "Who wants change?" Must be a politician.
Oh, I saw.
And everybody's hand goes up. And then he's like, "Who wants to change?"
Yeah.
And nobody's hand
Nobody's
hand. Because that is also, I think, part of the self-awareness is and even the inner work for me has been looking back at how society has primed me to be so compliant and to not pay attention to my feelings, but to kind of go with the herd and go with whatever. I think we feel so much pressure to be certain ways out here. And I think it's a beautiful thing. What I hope this show in our community, I'm sure you want the same thing, is for people to feel safe being human as they grow through their life.
Yeah.
And that's and we can have here we talk a lot about marketing, online marketing with you. You talk a lot about personal transformation and inner work, right? And it's like yeah, it's a balance of everything. It's I guess we're doing that here on Wake Up Legendary as well. But what I love most about entrepreneurship is it gives us this opportunity to both, further our lives, transform our lives in the physical form, but also in the spiritual, mental, and emotional form. And you're a wonderful example of that. So I don't want to keep you. We've already been here for over an hour, and I mean it's like chapter 1. So could you come back and maybe when you release your book, we can do chapter 2, and we can talk about your book because you're a little bit reserved as far as the details and the concept of it. So when you release it and you want to talk about it fully, hit us back up and come back on the show. We'd love to have you, and we'll continue this really, really interesting and powerful conversation.
Thank you so much. I honestly love this. I was looking at your videos and it's so, you guys validate people. I love the authenticity of your page, I have to say. So thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome, Tanya. And we hope to send you as many people as possible to join your community as well. So I'll talk to you soon. Good luck with the book launch. Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. See ya. All right, my friends, you can follow her at Tanya Beauty Coach. She's on TikTok, Facebook. From there, you can probably find other places where you can join, learn, engage, interact. What an amazing conversation this morning. And we often talk about this stuff, but to hear it and talk about it with somebody like Tanya, who's done the work and is helping others do the work too, is really cool. Again, if you want to go and check out our article inside of Inc. magazine, you can. From high school dropout to e-learning entrepreneur, you can learn about kind of what we're doing, kind of a little bit about our team. And it's got all of our stats from 2021 kind of transparently right there on the page, at least our revenue and our growth. And so, yeah, pretty cool. I'll put the link here. Let me see if it's still on my... There it is. So what? The picture's missing. Okay, but the article's there, and we'll reach out to him to make sure that the picture's on it on the article. Inc.com/. and you see it's a long link right there. I just posted in the comments. If you want to go over and check it out, you can. And we'll be back here for another episode tomorrow. Remember, if you want to catch the show on podcast or YouTube, we're on there as well. You can look us up, Wake Up Legendary or David Sharpe on YouTube, and you can catch all of our different content from past episodes. My friends, that was a powerful conversation. Join us tomorrow for another one in every single weekday where we have a guest or a student. We've done almost 600 of these episodes for your enjoyment, but also for your transformation. Listening to stories is one of the most powerful ways that you will begin to get a lot of this information kind of sinking in, because sometimes it's more entertaining and easy to listen to a conversation rather than watch an instructional video. We need both. All right. So meet us back here for another episode tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time, same place. Get out of here.